us is this STEM way of teaching and learning, the design process. So I figured that this question would come up, and the best way for me to get to describe it is to actually, if you don't mind, I'll give you an example. So we do problem-based learning. We do some projects too, and there's nothing wrong with projects, but problem-based learning is so powerful because it truly engages the students in the entire process. Here's an example. 5th grade, as part of ecosystems unit in science, the students learn about invasive species. So we're going to center a problem-based unit around invasive species. We bring in an expert from the community, an environmental expert, to actually talk to the students about what the problem is. Why are invasive species a problem? After that, the students then brainstorm, well, what can we do to help solve that problem? We guide them a little bit. We let them, we make them think they have complete ownership, but we guide them a little bit on what they want. In the end, it gets determined that the students are going to create posters. And these aren't just any posters. These are posters made in our Fab Lab on the poster maker. So now, throughout this entire unit, the students are going to learn about invasive species. They're going to do all the research. We're going to wrap in math, ELA, science, social studies, music, art, and even some phys ed to boost what they're learning. And then at the end of the unit, the students actually create these posters to inform the public about the dangers of invasive species. But we don't stop there. We bring back that expert. They help us evaluate those posters for accuracy. And then we take the posters out to the public libraries and we actually hang them up for the public to see them. That is the perfect example of what problem-based learning is all about. Each grade level has units like this. They don't do them all the time, but at least, at the upper grades, 3 to 4 PBLs a year. 3rd graders will probably only do a couple just because we're warming them up. But they have this powerful experience where they're learning and solving a problem at the same time. And it's great stuff. It's super effective. So long-winded answer, but I figured if I gave you an example, that would help.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Thanks, Mr. Bonick.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Bonnet, could you talk a little bit about flexible grouping?
Yeah. So if we're talking about, actually setting up, if we're talking about within a PBL, the flexible grouping there is that we tend to do a lot of diagnosis and try to match up students based on strengths within PBL groups so that each group is fairly strong when they complete these projects. But if we're also talking about setting up where the students are with math and ELA, the 3rd grade team does a fantastic job of diagnosing where the students' abilities are in math and ELA, and then they set up their classes so that all students are learning, are in a class at their instructional level. It's amazing stuff. And then that tracks all the way up, all the way through the school through 8th grade. By doing that, we have students I have a student in 8th grade who's basically taking junior level math because we're doing this and we're able to accelerate them that way. Is that, Ms. Kevin, is that what you were talking about for the most part?
Yeah, a little bit about how they do really assess students and depending on their levels and their groupings can change at different times too, depending on what they're working on. So you could have a student who appears to be very strong in math, but then they might hit a roadblock when they get into a little bit more difficult math. And so they may be in a different teacher group so They can get some more support in that area. And then their skills have increased and then they might be with a different group of kids at another time, right?
Correct. Yeah. And those are fluid. And we keep, again, the whole concept is for the students to be learning at their instructional level. So if they're way up here, we want to make sure we're meeting them at that level. If they're scuffling a little bit, we don't want to frustrate them. We want to make sure we're instructing them at their levels, so those groups they are flexible throughout even one school year.
I also wanted to mention, because some people might not realize, at the School of Innovation, we also have a broad range of staff. So we have our regular education teachers. We also have special education teachers. If a student happens to be on an individual education plan and they need small group instruction or they get speech therapy, we have all of those same services at the School of Innovation that we have in our other buildings as well.
That's correct.
Any other questions?
Do you feel there's any issues or differences in the kids that test in versus the kids that lottery in?
To be honest with you, we do. I feel that the staff, and understand, I taught fifth grade here for 5 years. So, and then I was lucky enough to come back as the principal. I feel that the staff throughout, even starting in third grade, does such a great job at integrating the students in a way that no one feels like, well, that's a lottery kid, or that's not a lottery kid. The kids all, and again, in those PBLs, they're all together. They're mixed and matched. So we are cognizant of the fact that, kids have different abilities, but we really make an effort to build community and make sure you're a SOI Spark now. Everybody is together. It's a community.
Yeah. There really is there's no difference in performance. We have students who are very high performance, whether they were a lottery student or a gifted student. We have students who have struggled in some areas, whether they were a lottery student or a gifted student. So like Mr. Bonnick said, they're all just very integrated in all of that learning together, and we really don't see a difference.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about this achievement score. The 95% you mentioned, is that like a map score for the regular elementary, or like day-to-day assessments that posted in Power School?
Were you talking about the COGAT test in the Iowa that we were talking about?
Not the COGAT, the achievement score.
Achievement.
The achievement?
Yeah.
The achievement score is all second graders are going to be taking that test in the next few weeks. And we will get an achievement score from everyone. And if they score in the 95th percentile, then that meets the criteria for an invitation, but it has to be in addition to a superior cognitive ability identification as well. But if they score like in the 90th percentile, we will do additional testing, because we want to cast the net to get as many children as we can.
And we are using the Iowa achievement test and the COGAT. Those are both administered online. Now, in the past, we have used MAP scores for identification for students and achievement, but we are not using MAP across the district anymore. We have switched to the Iowa for achievement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Bonnick, while they're thinking of their other questions, I'm thinking of questions that we've gotten in the past from parents that might be helpful to the ones who are with us tonight. Are there clubs and activities that students can participate in besides academics?
Yeah, we have quite a few, and this is in my first year as the principal. This is a piece that I'm learning as I go, but pretty much all of the same clubs that the other schools have, we have access to, either starting the club here. From an athletic standpoint, when they get to middle school, they are able to participate in the middle school athletics with what would be considered their home middle school. But we've got a drama club going on right now. We've got the Lego League, they call it FLL, going on right now. We've got an honor society. We have student council. We have another one that Miss Rowan had just started. The name of the club, I I can't remember it offhand, but we have quite a bit going on here, just like any of the normal schools.
In addition to their core content, they also have physical education classes, music classes, and art classes, Fab Lab classes as well, right?
Correct. And then we also then, as the kids get into middle school, we have computer literacy that we're able to offer, Spanish to the 8th grade. I think that covers most of it. But, you know, one nice little piece is our elementary kids get art on a regular basis, which the other elementaries don't have.
It really helps to feed their creativity.
It's a piece of the process. It's a piece of the integration with the PBLs and the cross-curricular that is really who we are.
Right. The other thing that we do want to mention, so as we talked about trying to meet students at their levels, once the students are in middle school, for example, we do have students who are in the 7th and 8th grade who are taking high school level courses for Algebra 1, Geometry, English Language Arts 1, that typically is taken as a 9th grader in the high school. And as Mr. Bonick mentioned, we do offer Spanish 1.
That's correct.
One of the things that's different about the School of Innovation, I think it's in the past, it's because it wasn't utilized as much, was Y-Care. So we don't have Y-Care available at the School of Innovation, correct?
Correct. The students would be bused to where their home school would be for that kind of service if they needed it.
So if parents needed Y-Care, for example, if my students would have been a grant student,
yeah,
they could go to Grant in the morning and then they would get bused from there. Do they get bused to a transfer bus at the middle school and then go to the SOI?
It's a great question because I just kind of learned this a little bit not too long ago. That's exactly what happened. So with the way the transportation works for all of our students is they are all taken to what would be, it doesn't matter what grade they're in, what would be their natural home middle school. And then they pick up a bus from there to come to SOI. So in the case of Y-Care, that bus would pick them up at Grant, take them to the middle school, and then from the middle school, they would come here.
And what are the school hours?
The school, the kids begin coming in at about 8:18. We don't officially, the middle school and elementary school start a little bit at different times. You know, I would say it's 8:40 and then 2:50, I think, or 8:35, 2:50. It's like right there.
What's at risk with the upcoming levy?
So one of the things that the Board of Education did put on their possible levy cuts was the School of Innovation. And so it is on the list, which indicates that if the levy does not pass in November, they would close the School of Innovation. So we are sincerely hoping that that won't happen, but it is on the cut list. If that does happen, then we would obviously not accept new students for next year, and the current School of Innovation students would be going back to their home schools. We did still want to run the process so we're ready if we are able to offer that for next year.
And we're being optimistic.
Very optimistic.
Thank you.
Anything else? Lisa or Mike, can you think of any questions?
No, I think the big ones were covered there.
I think we have a question.
Yeah, sorry. How long does the wait list extend for? Like if a kid accepts and then drops out in like August, do you keep going down or?
Yes, so once we run that process and we have a wait list. So let's say, for example, we have a student named Ryan and he is number 15 on the wait list. He will stay on the wait list until the 14 people in front of him have already either been accepted and enrolled in SOI, or maybe they declined. Same for the student who might be 100 on the wait list. They stay on the wait list. We do not create new wait lists from year to year. They stay on the wait list and they keep moving up until it's filled.
Okay, so kid might join SOI not in third grade, like they might join.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So we have had some students who, once they're in the 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, we end up calling them up and saying, hey, now it's your turn. We have an opening. So they stay on the wait list.
I brought in 4 or 5 7th graders this year, and it's a fun phone call to make. The parents are shocked because you go through that process when they're in 2nd grade, and oh my gosh, those years later.
Yeah.
5 years later, you get called up.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I love that call.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Mrs. Schatzman raised her hand.
Hi. I'm so sorry. I joined a little bit late and missed part of the presentation. Did you say it was on that the website link you sent us? You're going to post the actual PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I will post all the slides. I will probably go ahead and do a narration of that and post it, as well as the Q&A from this session.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cowan.
You're welcome.
Hi, Jamie, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And I'm just here as a parent for my 2nd grader, just for the record.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of other questions that people have asked us in the past. I know. Here's a great question. We've gone one-to-one in the district, but we've actually been one-to-one at the School of Innovation for quite some time. Now, the 3rd grade, beginning with 3rd grade, do they also take their Chromebooks home, Mike, or do they leave those at the school?
They're able to transport home now.
Okay.
We for a while in the beginning, they did have them on carts, and then 3rd and 4th we had them keep them on the carts, and then 5th they were able to start taking them home. But no, they can 3rd grade they can take them home. Okay.
So it's one-to-one, and they all can take their Chromebooks to do their work at home.
And the wonderful thing is at this point now, it's been 7 years of one-to-one technology. So the teachers, the veteran staff is used to it. And I think that they effectively use that ability to have that one-to-one. As the rest of the staff is beginning to figure out, you're handed this wonderful thing and it sounds great, but then you're like, whoa, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with this? What things are we going to use? And I know, of course, we're doing PD on that, which is great, but we have an advantage that we've been doing it now for 7 years. So we're prepared. We can always learn new things, though. Always.
Is this a uniform school?
Yes, it is.
So all students wear a uniform. And Mike, is that either khaki pants or blue pants? What is that uniform?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It would be more something that I would have to pull up on the screen, but I have it here. I don't know if we want to send it out there, but it's collared shirts in polo or dress shirt style. We have basic colors at SOI of the green, white, and blue. It's called navy blue, dark green, and white. So they're able to wear khaki pants. I allow the black is fine too. The uniform is great, number one, because the students look awesome, but it also helps us out because they will run through a wall to get a dress down day. They will do anything they can. So it's great to be able to use that as an incentive. But yeah, there is a dress code policy.
That's a great question.
It is.
I have a question about some of the assessments for the identification process. So there's the COGAT and the Iowa. Those are more like group administered assessments. So if you fall in that borderline range, what's kind of the next go-to that you typically use?
Well, there's another ability test that we can give, and that's usually in a much smaller group. It could be done group. It might be like 2 or 3 students, or it might be one-on-one. It depends on how many students fall into that range where we have to do a little bit more testing. There's also the achievement test. We use the Iowa, but we can also use the Stanford Binet. So we have a couple of test options that we use, but depending on if we have to do any follow-up testing, the groups are much smaller. That's not whole class or whole grade level testing. So it would be a much smaller setting.
It doesn't necessarily skip right to an individualized, there's like another small group option.
Not necessarily. Let's say your students at Grant and there's 3 students that are on the border. I would test all of them at the same time.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Let's see. I'm racking my brain. What other questions do I get?
One thing that's a little unique about the school, the regular elementaries, they have, especially 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they have planning throughout the week. At our school, because we want to give the teachers a lot of dedicated, and those planning periods are 30, 35 minutes. They're very, very short. In order to get our teams together, in order to plan in-depth PBLs, the students have those encore classes every 3rd day of the week. So every 3rd day they have, a 3rd grader would have gym, music, and art for most of the afternoon, which allows then the teachers to have a really solid amount of time to have in-depth discussions about team concerns or planning their PBLs. And I think that's a wonderful thing. It's and the kids love it. I mean, they root when it's their day. The 3rd grade is blue day. They'll tell me, they'll run up and tell me, tomorrow's a blue day. Tomorrow's a blue day. They get so excited. So it's a cool thing. It's different.
Mike, I just thought of a question that we often get. And we know that when all the 3rd graders start in the fall, they're starting at the same time. So it's just like any school, the teachers get them acclimated into the routine. But let's say that a student comes in because they were on the wait list. And so how does that transition work? How do those students do when they have to transition from their home school in March, for example, instead of at the beginning of the year with their classmates?
So the teams work, the teams work very hard to have those students fit in. And a lot of times with the younger ones, it's more teacher-based, where they're working with those students to make them feel comfortable. As the students get older, we actually have the students themselves. We pick out a few students to be liaisons for us to help acclimate that newer student to the building. And I've seen that happen multiple times. So, they'll show them the ropes, sit with them at lunch, help them feel comfortable, and sort of guide them through what it's like to be a SOI Spark. But that's an excellent question. And it's honestly something that I want to strengthen going forward for new students. I want to put a more in-depth program together.
We also want to mention, this doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does happen when a student might decide, or the parent might decide, that this really isn't the best fit for their child. And that's okay too. So if you accept and your student joins, and then for some reason that student and the parent decides, I think they'd be better off going back to their home school, we can help you with that transition as well. No one should feel badly about that, because you have to do what's best for your child. This might be, it's the great fit for the majority, but every once in a while it's not, because sometimes it can be very fast paced and they do a lot of more movement between teachers and other groups of students at the School of Innovation than they might be used to at their home school. So if you ever do have a concern though, the first line of attack is really to call the student's teacher and talk with them, or call Mr. Bonnick, and they'll be happy to work with you and that student if they're having trouble transitioning for some reason.
And this 3rd grade team, they're phenomenal. These are all veteran teachers, and they love working with the parents, and they know that especially this first grading period, it is a little bit of shock and awe. I mean, the kids come, it's very different, and there's a little bit of anxiety and panic at first, but they do a wonderful job of eventually getting the students to settle in and then they just take off from there. It's a beautiful thing.
How are teachers selected, or do they interview? How do you get your teachers at SOI? What's that process? Or is it a straight like seniority when an opening happens? You know what I mean?
Miss Kevin, you want to take that, or am I taking that one?
Staying a little there, Mike.
So going back just a little bit to the history. So when we first started SOI, we do have to follow teacher contract procedures, which does include seniority. However, one of the things that we have done is really talk with teachers who might be interested in filling slots at SOI and say, this is how we do business here. It's a little bit different than what you might be used to, because there is a lot more collaboration and teamwork with the teachers, a lot more planning together. And teachers in your traditional school buildings, they do collaborate with other teachers, but they might do more on their own because they're usually self-contained in their classroom.
Right.
So it is based on seniority, but we have teachers come over. They often will come visit SOI to see if it looks like the environment that they want to teach in. And we have lots of conversations with them to make sure that they believe that it's a really good fit for them.
It's such an excellent question. And in all honesty, the staff has stayed pretty steady through these 7 years. We've had a little bit of movement here and there, but overall, I call them the OGs have been here and they haven't left.
And that group of teachers was trained. They had PBL training and things like that when they initially started there.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear that there's that extra training, and it's a group that's worked together for a while and kind of has the process.
I have to, and of course, I'm a little biased. I was one of those too. These are a lot of folks who were the grade level chairs in the buildings that they came from. They were leaders in their own buildings, and they were veterans, and they took this leap because they loved the idea of the building. And they have been rocking it ever since.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Food services works the same as it did in the other buildings. So there's nothing different there that I think we need to talk about.
I hear rumors that our food is better, but I don't know, maybe.
The students do get to, part of working on their special projects is we do have the fabrication lab available, the fab lab that has the vinyl cutters, 3D printers, the laser cutter. So they'll rotate through that and use it for particular projects. Sometimes we have students that are actually coming up with ideas and going and saying, hey, I want to try to build this. Can I do this? And the teacher's there to help them.
Right, and that's a great point. So the idea is at the 3rd grade level, 4th grade level, even a little bit 5th grade, we're training them on how to use all of the core Fab Lab machines. And really in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we kind of guide them to, okay, we want you to use the 3D printer to do this. And then by 6, 7, 8, when they have a PBL, we say, okay, at the end of this PBL, you need to create something out of the Fab Lab. You get to pick what it is. You get to pick the machine you're going to use, but it has to obviously tie in with whatever exposition of that end product that they're gonna have. And it's very powerful. So we're training the students right from 3rd grade. There's 2 key programs that they have to learn. It's Tinkercad and Corel Draw. We have Miss Legursky, who's our trained expert that helps out. And we're actually getting the staff trained as well to make sure the staff themselves know how to use these programs. So by the time the students are in really 5th, 6th grade, they're experts themselves.
one of the things that we strive to do with the School of Innovation was to try to use it as a platform school and have some of the things that we do at SOI also going on in the other buildings. So you may have heard, or maybe your students have talked with you about the maker spaces in the elementary schools. So each of our elementary schools and our middle schools now have maker spaces that have 3D printers or vinyl cutters in them. So some of that has also spread out into our other buildings, which has really been phenomenal, and the kids have been really excited about that.
Yeah.
All right, great questions. Anything else that you can think of? Well, we appreciate you being here tonight. As I mentioned, we're going to post the slide deck and we'll post the Q&A portion, and our email addresses are there. If you need to email us anytime, I know what it's like. I've been in meetings like this and you get home and all of a sudden you think of a question, or maybe it's tomorrow, or maybe it's a week from now. Do not hesitate to reach out and ask us.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you.
I love talking SOI, so any questions you have, feel free.
All right. Well, we'll hang on a few minutes just in case something pops into your head before you sign off, but we appreciate you joining us tonight. And once again, don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything.